So on April 10th, 1985, Buhari executed 3 young Nigerian men for drug trafficking, a sentence that the men were likely to have escaped some years earlier, but a change in the constitution and the introduction of Decree 20 made the 3 men face the judgment years after. So here is a proper breakdown of the story. The former President General Muhammed Buhari, who was once the head of state in the year 1985, sentenced these 3 men to death by firing squad for a case of drug trafficking. And according to Decree 20 of the Constitution that was introduced in 1985, any person who, without lawful authority, deals in, sell, smoke or inhale the drug known as cocaine and other similar drugs shall be guilty and liable on conviction to suffer death sentence by firing squad. So these guys were convicted based on the Decree 20, but 2 things are fascinating about this story here. Firstly, these guys could have escaped the death sentence had it been they were smart enough, because the crime was committed before the introduction of Decree 20 in 1985. Secondly, these guys were convicted and killed for the same crime that Gloria Okon committed in the same year, and she wasn't sentenced like others. In case you don't know who Gloria Okon is, kindly check her story on my page. So back to this story, and who are these 3 men? So Bartholomew Azubike, 26 years old and a former employee of Nigerian Airways, Lawal Akoni Ojuolape, 30 years old, a spare parts dealer, and Bernard Ogedengbe, a 29-year-old sailor. These 3 men were convicted of illegal possession of cocaine. So Ojuolape Lawal was the first one caught with the highest gram of substance on a Tuesday evening in 1981. He had just got back from Singapore and landed at the airport in Lagos with the 1.238 kilograms of cocaine hidden in a bag containing yam flour. Upon arrival, he was said to have gone through the red channel with his bag at the airport, and when he was about to rush through the channel with his bag, the airport security suspected that he was looking suspicious and unsettled, and immediately he was passed down to the check room where his bags were checked and the substance were recovered. He was detained, and even though he tried out to convince the airport security that it was his first time in the business, he was shunned. So in the same year, Bernard Ogedengbe was caught with 207 grams of heroin in a detergent packet on arrival at Lagos airport from India. And as he was asked what he was doing with the detergent bag, he told them that it was given to him by his mother-in-law, who was an Indian. But when he realized that he was going to be detained and arrested soon, he began to act like he was mentally unstable. And when the officer saw the sudden change in his attitude, they laughed off and got him arrested immediately. And afterward, Bartholomew was caught with heroin on his return from Brazil and was also arrested. So within the space of months, these 3 men were all arrested and brought to book. During this time, a woman called Lady Iyama, 34 years old, was also arrested for possessing 15.3 grams of cocaine. So they were all brought to face judgment. So before the 1985, the punishment for drug trafficking was life imprisonment or 20 years behind bars, depending on the level of drug crime committed. So as these 3 men were arrested and brought to book, they were detained, and at some points they were granted bail and soon likely to be freed after some times. Meanwhile, the case were on trial and soon to be finalized for either a life imprisonment or few years behind bars, and that was when the unthinkable happened. So during this period, General Muhammed Buhari became the military head of state, and on 31st December 1983, after taking power from Shehu Shagari's civilian government in a military coup d'etat, and when Buhari got to post, a new decree was updated to the constitution, which was the Decree 20, which stated that drug trafficking and oil bunkering are punishable by death. Any person who, without lawful authority, deals in, sell, smoke or inhale the drug known as cocaine and other similar drugs shall be guilty. So in this case, every person whose crime fall under the Decree 20 after it has been introduced will face the death penalty, and that was it. But these 3 young men had committed the crime before the new law was enacted, and despite public outcry for the administration to reconsider their decision on these young men, yet Buhari turned a deaf ear until they were executed by firing squad. So on April 10th, 1985, the 3 young men were brought out to grant their last interview before execution took place. And according to report from the interviewers, one of the men, whose name was Ojuolape, stated that he had 4 children and that he went into the business because of them, which he regretted badly. And the other men stated that if they had knew that they would be sentenced to death, they would have left the country after the first bail was granted. And after the interview, they were tied to the stakes and publicly executed by military firing squad outside the Kirikiri prison. They became the first Nigerian executed under Decree 20 of the military regime. And according to reports, the woman that was arrested alongside was not executed, as it was reported that a pardon was granted.